Hi, guys. I wanted to check in and tell you a great story. It's not only a great story, I believe it was a life changing story for me. It was a part of my life 35 years ago. Wow. Actually, yeah, right around 35, 36 years ago. That's crazy to think, but it altered my life completely. It made everything different. And it happened on a Christmas. It began on Christmas of 1984. My dad was in bed. He was unable to be at our Christmas meal, something we had had often as a family, and obviously, Christmas meal in our parents' home in Mexico, Missouri. And my dad was sick. He had cancer, and little did we know that a month later he would pass away, actually on January 25th of 1985. I got to be with him during that time in the last moments of his life, and I am incredibly grateful for that opportunity. It might sound weird, but it was an incredibly grateful moment. And if you have the opportunity to be with a parent or a loved one during their final minutes, then it's good to have that. And I was very blessed. Christmas. So let me go back to the Christmas meal. My dad is in his room in a hospital bed. Actually, they brought a bed in for him, and he loved the meal. He loved the time together, and every once in a while, he would call out in a weak voice, "What are you having now?" And we would all yell out, "Hey, Dad, we're having this. We're having turkey, or we're having this." And then we got to his favorite part of the meal, which is dessert. And his favorite was pecan pie. His favorite pie. He just loved pecan pie. Had to have it at Christmas and Thanksgiving. So probably the only times he got it outside if he went somewhere and ordered it. But that was back then. That was even in '85. It was kind of harder to find, at least in Mexico, Missouri. So he yells out, "Hey, what are you doing now?" We said, "Hey, Dad, we're having pecan pie a la mode," and that was like his favorite. So he said, "When you're finished, could you come into my room?" So we finished our meal, and we didn't bother cleaning up. We just went in to we see my dad, and we gathered as a family around his bed. And we had small talk for a short time, and then he looked at me and he says, "Bye." He says, "Are you doing what God has asked you to do?" Now, you have to understand, in 1985, Crystal and I had been married in Christmas of '84, we'd been married 3 years, and we were on staff and just raising support for Campus Crusade for Christ, what's now called Cru. And we uh, we were in the midst of raising our finances, and not long before going out on the field in their music ministry to be with a soloist and then with an evangelistic band with Cru. And my dad must have sensed something, because when he asked me that, he looks at me I knew that face was, and I said, "Dad, yes, I'm doing exactly what the Lord has asked me to do." And he turns to Crystal and he says, "Is that right, Crystal?" Because he knew I could lie and he knew I could sell something. So he wanted to get to the truth of it all. And Crystal is going to tell you exactly the way it is. And she said, "Yes, Dad, we're doing exactly what God has asked us to do." What came out of his mouth next surprised me. And he turns to my family and he says, "Leave them alone." Whew. Guys, every time I think of this moment, it's deep. It was so strong. You have a man lying on his deathbed. He's soon to pass away. He pulls the truth out of us and he tells the family to leave us alone. And there had been some questions on whether or not we were doing because this was unheard of in our family. It was unheard of that we would go out and ask people for money, that we would raise our support like Crusade is asking, really what God has asked us to do through 40 years of ministry. Now, 40 years of ministry. He's asked us to go out and develop our finances through friends and acquaintances and associates and churches and businesses and people like yourselves. And he said, leave them alone. And then he said, would you come to my side? And Crystal and I went to his side, and he grabs our hands and he takes our hands and he begins to pray a blessing over our life, to release us and bless us into the things that God had called us to. I didn't know the full extent of that until later. Several months later had passed, and someone contacted me and said, Byron, you need to take care of your issues with your father now that he's passed. And we hung up on the phone, and I thought, am I so dysfunctional? Because to be honest, I didn't feel anything. I was like, I don't feel any disconnection with my father. I don't feel any of that. And I'm going, oh my gosh, Lord, I must be the most dysfunctional person on the earth because I I feel absolutely fine. And I actually was a bit concerned about that. Like, how do I deal with this issue? That's even deeper than dealing with my dad's issues. And I heard the Lord just simply say, Byron, you received your father's blessing. And there's not many people on the earth that get directly the prayer and blessing of their earthly father. That altered my life. And it set me on a completely different path. It was no longer just about the ministry. It was no longer just about doing something for God. I had received my earthly father's blessing, a blessing that's so rare in this world. And I wanted to stop for this few moments and say, maybe you didn't get your earthly father's blessing, but we have the most amazing dad. His love for us, his compassion, his longing to be with us is far beyond anything an earthly father could even begin to imagine, much less provide. So if you ever doubt or ever need a father's blessing, open your hands to the Father. Walk into his throne room because you have confident access into his room, into his presence, and ask him for it. Ask him. Ask him today for the Father's blessing over your life, that he would grab your hand and bless and release you into all he has prepared for you. Yeah? Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a great day, a great weekend. I hope you're with family. Crystal and I say yes and amen. Thank you so much for being a part of our support team, for being a sponsor of BHH and us. Guys, your love for us, your care for us is immense. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Talk to you soon.